Just Branding. Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Just Branding. Today we have Mash Bonigala, and he's a man of many titles. On my search on how to define Mash, I came across a number of profiles, all with some new titles. So I'm just going to run through some of them. So Mash is a brand strategist. He's a branding and positioning strategy coach. He's a brand transformation coach. He's a pug dad, an author, a venture capitalist, a world traveler, a wine enthusiast, a serial entrepreneur, a brand differentiator. However, I know Mash best because of his agency, which is called Spellbrand. And that's what we're going to discuss today, and perhaps a few of those other things. But before we get into that, Mash has a fascinating backstory, as well as some clever tricks when it comes to selling strategy, which is what we're going to get into, as well as a few other things. So welcome, Mash.
Thank you so much, Jacob and Matt. Thanks for having me. The titles, yeah, absolutely. It's like wearing hats, I suppose. And I've got many hats, and I like to wear hats, as you can see, completely bald. So hats are my thing. But having said that, it's because serial entrepreneur probably is what is more accurate, and that's why there are so many titles. Because Spellbrand is my agency. I'm one of the partners in that, but also I'm a partner in an incubator, which is a semi kind of venture capital firm. But it's not just about the investments as in a venture capital firm. It's more about building the brands. But we are here to talk about Spellbrand and my hat as a strategist. And of course, how, as you rightly pointed, the backstory, it's the story that actually set up Spellbrand as it is now. It used to be something different. It was a design sweatshop, so to speak, even though it was a small firm. And then because of a few different kind of events coming together, that business almost went bankrupt, and the design firm. And then, of course, I sort of rejuvenated it and rose from the ashes to turn it into a branding agency. And that's where strategy came into play. And I'll explain more about that in just a second. But yes, so we started as a design firm, two-man design firm, and then which later went up to about 40, 50, probably 50 people. And then went down to two, actually 1.5, almost crashed and burned. And then back up again in 2019, went up to about 20, 22. Pandemic hit. It's now back to about 6, but much more efficient than we ever were. So yeah, that is kind of a blueprint or outline of my story. If you want, yeah, I can just get started, or you can ask me and then I can dig in.
Yeah, I'm sure Matt has. I know the backstory, so let's ask Matt some questions too.
Awesome. So I think one thing that would be helpful to our audience for you to define it is, by the way, fascinating story, and yeah, the yo-yoing, the ups and downs, the roller coaster of being an entrepreneur in this space it's tough. I also ran an agency for a while, and I was so sick of it, I got rid of my agency and I just went solo because it is tough. Yeah, for sure. But I wondered if it would be worth kind of defining, you mentioned that you were a design sweatshop, and then you've now you sort of pivoted into the branding agency space. And I wonder if you could sort of paint a picture of those two things and the difference between them, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so I was working in Florida at that time. This was back in 1998. I was working in a big advertising firm, and in my previous life, I was a software engineer and developer. And I went from that into advertising and branding, just like you guys, a passion for it, I guess. But a friend of mine, a colleague, we both were tired of, even in those days, agencies. Well, probably more in those days. You guys are probably too young to remember, but 1998, it's the way the firms and the accounts they had and the way they dealt with branding and design, it was really infuriating. So we wanted to just do design part of it and not get into account politics and all that. And we wanted to start our own firm. So two of us got together, So we said, okay, let's just do a design firm. Let's create some nice designs, local community, and let's just make a living out of that. When we did that, it was wildly successful to get started with. So from 2 people, we started expanding very rapidly. And the reason I call it a design sweatshop is that we were offering design as a commodity, right? I mean, that's what's happened. That what happens with every design firm, I suppose, especially when it is competitive and you're dealing with competing against overseas firms, which was the bane of our lives at that time. It still is, but at that time it was rampant. And when you're offering design as a commodity and your clients treat you worse than people who come to paint their fences, that's what I would define as a design sweatshop, right? So the 20 of us, the 40 of us, we were there. We loved design. We were doing it. We were producing great designs. And yet, well, I suppose even now the clients, design and branding, respect. Well, we'll talk about that in just a second. But to go back, the design sweatshop. What that meant was we were doing hundreds of projects, but the revenue and when we paid ourselves, there was nothing left. We're probably making less than minimum wage, even though we were probably bringing in, maybe like $100,000 a month at one point. This was maybe in 2003, 2004. So 1998, we began. And then by 2003, 2004, when we began, we called ourselves Logo Design Works. And in 2002, we registered it as Spellbrand. Because by that time already, I was beginning to see that we needed to turn this into a branding, not an agency, but a firm that created brands rather than just created logos, right? And this sweatshop, we ran it for forever. In fact, we expanded further. In 2005, we opened an office in London. And my cousin, actually, my wife is from London and we have a home in London too. I shuttle between London and New York. Well, I used to shuttle. Now we don't go anywhere. And now that my car is smashed in, I'm not going anywhere till I get my new car, right? But anyway, so London, my cousin, we had so many clients from London, right? From England, Scotland, from all over that place, right? And so in 2004, I was actually, for holidays, we were at our in-laws place here in Essex. And my cousin was like, you get so many clients from the UK. Why don't you start a branch here? So we set up shop. I stayed back. I canceled my flights back. I was supposed to go back after the holidays, but I stayed back 3 months and we set up shop in London. First, we set up shop outside of London, suburbs. And then we took an office in St. Catherine's Bay, right beside the Tower Bridge, and which we still have. Oh yeah, great place, right? Great views.
St. Catherine's Docks, phenomenal. Like there's some beautiful restaurants. Oh, yeah. If anyone's ever in London, check out St. Catherine's Docks. Beautiful place.
Oh yeah. And then when things open up, maybe we can meet there once. If you drop by,
we will definitely do that, Mash. I'd love that. Yeah, any excuse to go to that neck of the woods, it's great.
Oh, absolutely.
So you set this agency up, this brand agency. How did it go?
Okay, so London, UK, that one 2005, and so the projects till that time we were dealing with all the UK projects. So by that time we already moved from Sarasota. First, we were in Sarasota in Florida, then Tampa, and then we moved up to Columbus, Ohio. And we had our agency there. And all the work was being done in Columbus. And when we opened the agency in London, it was a bit of it was quite difficult to get the projects back. We built a team here. And what we noticed was that the clients were they were reaching out to us for the American design style, you might call it, right? Much more aggressive compared to, for example, UK branding, right? You know what it is, right? It's much more conservative. It's reserved. And so a lot of the clients were like, oh, could you do this in the US, please? Could you do it in the US, please? But later on, we worked around that. We came up with a system and we then sent a couple of lead designers from Columbus to live in London. And So yeah, and it went really well. Until 2019, it was doing really well. But then, of course, we had to shut it down, pandemic. And the UK agency continued even during the pandemic. But the US agency continued. The New York one continued during the pandemic, but the UK one did not. No projects. And of course, a lot of lockdown, tier 4, tier 5, tier 3, whatever. It's still going on, right? So we do hope to reopen in London again, and I'm sure we're going to have a great time there. So in terms of the sweatshop, the difference between that and what we turned into later, and I will tell you, of course, why, and Jacob knows this, why we turned into an agency, is that once that sweatshop was because I felt like I said, I don't mean to demean people who paint fences. I don't mean to say that, but what I'm trying to say is that I paint my own fence, right? But I felt that it's the client's perception, and I probably took it a little to heart. And as a design professional, after the crash, when I had the opportunity to rebuild it, I decided never to go back to that kind of service again. Although you might say, well, a part of what we always offer when we are, brand agencies or firms, it has to have that service component where, yes, there will be a little bit of commodity kind of, you can never say no to it, but at least on our own terms. Charging a lot was another big thing. When we were the sweatshop, our primary kind of revenue sales was through Google, right? So Google traffic, and we were part of that crazy time when, people were manipulating Google links and, spamming and stuffing keywords on pages and things like that. We were part of that group, like anybody else. I mean, nobody knew better, even though Matt Mullenberg at that time, people were slowly starting to realize that maybe the algorithm was changing. But anyway, there was this big Penguin update, right? You probably remember it. Huge one. And millions of websites across the world were affected. We were one of them. But what happened was that we had all our eggs in one basket, right? So the Google ranking, we had pretty strong rankings. We were really strong. So overnight,
I do remember, Mash, like whenever I was Googling logo design at that time, it was like logo design works, like top of Google and
everywhere. Yeah, everywhere. And we were getting like, millions of visitors, and the conversion rates were super high. It was good times, right? It's almost like before the stock market crash and how, afterwards. But anyway, this thing, so when Google did that update, our site was wiped out, and instantly overnight sales stopped, zero. So we were making like almost $100,000 a month. We went down to maybe $1,500, $1,200, sometimes even less. So we had a lot of buffer, and so we kept the team going. We still gave them salaries, and we were paying rents and stuff. No project coming in. We kept that going for about 4.5 months, and things started to run dry. And I did not want to take on any debt. So we had to let a lot of people go. So at that time, we were probably about 50, 55 people in-house. We took a huge, like a warehouse. We converted it in Columbus. And we also had a satellite office in New York. We were paying a lot of rent in Manhattan for bigger projects, and overnight shut down. We let go of about 50 people in the span of, I would say, 4 or 5 days. And these people were not just recent recruits or anything. A lot of them, about 80-90%, have been with the company since about 2000. And we were like a family, right? So we were a real family. I guess every company says that, their staff is family, but believe me, this was real family. We were at each other's, baby births and showers, and so it was really painful. And for me, I was devastated, right? So my business partner at that time took it reasonably well, but I was devastated. So for me, it was an economic journey or a business journey. It was also an emotional journey. And I came out of that a different person. I was a different person before that, and then I came out a different person. Maybe initially when I came out of that, I was very bitter, but that bitterness, I think, I managed to overcome it. But the initial catalyst was that bitterness, and it was me against the world kind of a thing, right? So, in fact, the first thing I did was turn my back on social media at that time, and I decided not to use social media to build a business, because I realized that I built the business on Google, and look what happened. And social media at that time, you know how it was, right? It was a different kind of social media. It still is probably a little bit like that, but it was slightly different. And so for about a period of 3 years, when I built the agency up, there was no social media. Even now, we don't use much social media. We do so because our clients expect us, and we don't derive, I would say 10, 15% of our revenue, of our sales comes from social media. The rest, well, LinkedIn, I'll tell you about it. LinkedIn is our secret weapon at the moment, right? It has been so for the last 2.5 years. So, but I would not categorize that as social media, because on LinkedIn, yes, we post now and then, but we don't use it in the traditional sense of just posting every day, posting articles, sharing this, sharing that. No, we use it in a different way. And I'll lay out the strategy of how we do it on LinkedIn. But so Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, none of these. And I wanted to create a company where we were serving clients, that we reached out, we built trust first, we built a relationship, and then we were providing the services. So design, rather than before, design was the loss leader. It was the gatekeeper, so to speak. It was the opening gambit. I flipped it the other way around, where design came at the end. And I thank the Almighty, not in a religious sense, but spiritually, that spark, it literally saved me. It saved my company. I was able to get back 40-50% of the previous family teams. We went from 100,000 at the time. 2018 was our best year. We were doing 200 to 250 a month. Not big when you compare it with, of course, big agencies, but we are by no means a big agency. We're boutique, and we intend to be boutique. And there was an episode where there was a hostile kind of takeover attempt at one stage through my business partner, but we stuck to our gun. We didn't take in any investment. In fact, whatever the revenue we got, of course, paying ourselves and, all the benefits and perks, but we built a fund, and that's the fund we used to open up an incubator to invest in startups. Started with one startup in Dubai, and then so on and so forth. But anyway, that's a different story.
You have a lot of stories, Mash.
I'm loving this, man. Honestly,
I love it.
You're so open about the downs as well as the ups, and I think people need to hear that. Like I also have had stressful times where I've had to let teams go. It's horrible, and I, like you, I always took that very personally. Like I felt the day I'm going in, knowing I have to let people go, it was like the worst day of my life. Like seriously, I remember just feeling so sick in the lift going up to my offices, knowing that I had to call some people that I would consider my friends into an office, into a little boardroom and say, "I'm really sorry you're not coming with me on the journey." I mean, that is like the worst thing ever.
It's the guilt. It's the guilt that you get.
And also, as a leader, you feel responsible. Like, they're trusting you to lead the agency. And, a lot of that pressure is on your shoulders. So for me, every time as you were talking, I was feeling some of those emotions. And, it's one of the reasons, frankly, why I kind of have gone solo for the last few years. Because
I don't blame you, man. That's stressful. Probably the best way to do it.
You kind of brushed over it, Mash. I know you're in a much deeper place than what you're kind of letting off here, but we'll leave it there.
Oh yeah, no. It was quite deep, actually. I did fire cleansing literally. It's gonna sound hocus pocus, but I did fire cleansing, inner spirit cleansing, and the reason I did that was because maybe I felt guilty, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but I felt that all my friends, they probably felt that I betrayed them. How? Because of not having this forethought, this vision, and really depending on something like Google, right? I should have seen when we had 60 people or 50, 55 people, whatever, which were about 30, 40 families, then maybe I should have been, wise and thought, hang on, what if something happens tomorrow, right? But lessons learned, and I managed to get back, 40. And yeah, I went through a personal journey myself. I purely, I did Zazen. I went to Japan. I went to Kyoto to the birthplace of Zazen. My wife thought I was going cuckoo, man. But I had a reason. Because I thought there were two things there was two paths for me. One was to say, okay, that's it. There's nothing I can do. And I had a lot of skill sets. I could easily walk into an agency and get a job, right? Or I could even go back to software, because I used to work for Microsoft at one stage. And and you'll find my name even on the Blowfish algorithm, the author list, right? So I was working on security encryption algorithms and things like that. So with that skill set, I could just walk in and get a job. And my wife, a lot of my family, they said, no, business, I don't think business is for us. You're not a business guy. You don't have that cutthroat kind of, so I needed to make the right decision. And maybe I did it because I wanted to just get my friends back into jobs, right? I think that was my motivation. My motivation was to open the doors again, just get them back in, and then say, okay, fine, maybe sell off the company or whatever, but I need to do this. So I kicked them out. I need to bring them back. So I went to Japan, spent I don't know, about maybe 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. 6 weeks in the temple, but the other 2 weeks was just traveling and in Tokyo and all that. And there was a time when I did silent meditation 8 or 9 days straight, right? And I still do breakthrough meditation now, right? It's called an hour breakthrough meditation, right? When there's sticky projects or when strategy I'm working on, something is not working. 1 hour, it usually sort of unlocks the brain. But anyway, I'm digressing here. So that little spark that said, flip it, right? Flip it and offer value with something else, and then lead them towards design. I think that was the best decision that I made. And to facilitate that, I started analyzing, okay, what do we do? Now, right now, of course, this day, brand strategy has become like a commonly used word. Everyone throws it around. Even clients are using it. But a few years back, it wasn't that much, right? Brand strategy meant something else, or at least that's what people thought. It was something serious. So I didn't arrive at the strategy aspect straight away. I was thinking, okay, maybe I can consult, right? Let me offer solutions to their business problems, and then design will come later. So in fact, I started behaving like a consultant, and I built the agency as a consultant. Even right now, yes, it's called a branding agency, but it's more a consulting agency. Even today, I had six calls, and they had nothing to do with real strategy or positioning itself. It was more about problem solving. And right now, that is a part of our services engagement. We do troubleshoot our clients' problems as a part of that engagement, that proposal, that package that we create. Of course, clients don't know that, right? They come for either positioning strategy, branding, or they want to penetrate a new market, or they want to launch something, or they have sub brands they want to bring into a family brand, blah blah. These are the use cases. But when they come to us, we don't actually pitch our service straight away. In fact, we do what is called as problem picking, right? It's a session where I or anyone who gets on the discovery call, we just talk about the problems and we tell them, forget about branding, forget about design, forget about what we can offer you, right? Here I am sitting in front of you. I'm asking you as a friend, what are the problems in your business, right? Let's talk about those. So anyway, that was the approach that I started and then slowly figured it out. And right now it's pretty honed in. And problem solving led to the instant trust. In fact, within the first 2 calls. So a client who would have in the past, when we were at a sweatshop, a client who was paying us probably, I don't know, well, I'm embarrassed to say, but that is what it was. Project started from anywhere from $250 to $750, $850, $1,000, right? Clients who were even hesitant to pay that in the previous incarnation, in the new model, straight off the bat, after the first 1, 2, 3 calls, we were talking in 5,000, 10,000, 15, 20,000. For me, that was such a validation of this. Of course, this took a little while. It took, the first year was terrible. It was almost like day trading. I don't know if you guys experience day trading. It's like, you buy a stock and you see that you buy it because you look at the technical analysis and you see that the price action, it's going to go up. There's a bear flag, bull flag, right? But then once you buy it, always what happens is as soon as you buy it, things start going down. You start seeing negative and then you want to pull the plug. And amateur day traders, they pull the plug. So you have unrealized losses. So an unrealized loss is maybe it shows on the account minus 350. So you bought, I don't know, Bitcoin, you're sitting there minus 350. But that's not really a loss until you close the position. And that, I think, is what I learned at that time was, not to pull that chain, because I was tempted many times. And then I went back again, started offering packages for a couple of months. Again, we had the silver, gold, bronze, whatever, the nonsense that we used to have. And with an additional business card added in, we'll also print 50 cards. I'm not laughing at them. I'm not making fun of those things. But what I'm trying to say is that those things we did full-heartedly. We still do. We still have packages, but they are packaged differently. They're pitched differently. They're sold differently. That's what I'm trying to say.
I just think what you've just said, like similar journey to me, actually, started in graphic design, running design agencies. Now just do strategy, no design at all. So I hear a lot of the things that you're saying, and a lot of listeners will know that, I'm backing what you're saying as you're speaking. I'm kind of cheering. No one can see that, but inside I'm like, hey.
We're just nodding along.
Yeah, we're nodding along because, and I see what you think of this, Smash, because I always think you get paid for adding value, right?
Yeah.
So value is perceived as well. It's not necessarily always a tangible thing, particularly in our line of work.
Absolutely.
So how do you get perceived to add more value, and how can you actually add more value? Is it by getting faster and faster at graphic design, which is kind of how you're taught in if you're in the graphic design trade? It's it's the speed of which you can do things. Well, actually, no, not really, because there's only a certain value that actually the output of a good logo will actually be, someone will be prepared to buy just for that. So where is the value? And I think you hit the nail on the head, which is we're solving problems. Designers, in my view, need to think outside of the box of I am a graphic designer and start thinking about the process and the mental capacity that they have to look at situations and design ways out of it, And I think once you're a designer, you're always a designer. You can see a better future and you can figure out a way to get there. And it's a bit messy, but you're okay with that in the dragon pit, right? Because that's Absolutely. How you roll. So that's incredibly valuable to business. And as you've said, if you can package that in a way that is perhaps more consultant-led, where you're actually working with clients to figure out their problems and then design ways out of it, rather than waiting for the phone to ring with somebody who's already figured out the problem and you're just there to put the cherry on the top of the cake, if you like, you can get paid a lot more. And so I think everything you've said, is massively aligned to my experience and to my journey. What do you think,
Yeah.
Jacob?
I agree, and I've got the complete same journey as Mash, and I think a lot of people have experienced that as well. You kind of just like the journey is when you start out as a designer, you start charging like by the hour, and then you realize that's a really bad idea, and it's like a project, and you're like, oh, now there's this 3 package deal thing, and you try that out, and then you figure out the consultancy approach and the problem solving approach, and that's where the value conversation comes up. So completely resonate with both of you guys.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think the biggest shift, and for young designers right now, young or old or whatever, I mean to say, people on that design journey, I think it's easy being just a designer. And that's why I feel, and I work with a lot of designers in the incubator also, I think it's easy, perceived easiness of just being, because problem solving is daunting, right? Problem solving or consulting looks to be daunting. So what I've seen is designers continue being designers and not then step out of the comfort zone because that's the bubble. But it is actually more difficult just being a designer than trying to step out. That's what I realized. So before I stepped out, I thought it was going to be difficult. But actually, after I stepped out, I look back and I think, oh my God, just offering only design is very difficult. What do you guys say to that?
I actually really agree, because in effect, you're opening yourself up to huge commoditization, huge stress, because you have to keep grabbing, getting new projects in. Whereas consultancy, you can have longer term relationships with clients. You can build trust, as you've said. Therefore, you don't have to keep winning new clients all the time. And I think as well, there's other things involved. You have to continually remain creatively fresh all the time. If you're running, when I was a designer, I would be designing for 4 or 5 clients in a day. That's kind of grueling. That's tough. And so I think, after a while of that, my head is just spinning, and I just think actually, although it's harder to get started in consultancy, once you find your groove, your niche, you work out where you're good, where you can add that value, it's not too bad after them. But it's having the bravery to try and step into that space.
Bravery, that's it. That's the bravery. I think that's the right word, really. Courage you need to do that. And a single piece of advice for getting on that path is really to just offer 2 calls for troubleshooting for any service. And that's what I did. So for any service, even for a logo, right, I would put in the contract 2 hours. And at that time, well, I'm not advocating that because that's a lot of work. But I had a 24/7 open line. But I had to do that because I was rising from the ashes, right? So almost bankruptcy, right? We were left with, I think, 2,500 or 3,000 or whatever. And then, I wanted to put that into a course and whatever, but still, I think just opening up initially and adding on, call me. You got a problem in your business, call me. Might sound a little, I don't know, uncomfortable, but I'm telling you that worked for me great. It still works right now. Today I had a call with a client. It had nothing to do with the project we're working on. This is a hospice. It's a chain of hospices. And by the way, we work in verticals now, right? So, and that's where LinkedIn comes in. We work in verticals. And this hospice vertical is a pretty good one that we've been working on last 2.5 years. And they called, we had almost like a 50-minute Zoom call. And it was their MailChimp. They wanted to send out a newsletter, not technical problem, but talking about how some of their target audience was older generation and blah, blah. Anyway, so I spent 50 minutes. I don't regret it. It was unbilled, but it has greater value. This client is a lifetime client. They're not going to go anywhere. And I can say that to their face because they would say that to me. At the end of the call, they say, Mash, I don't know what we would have done if we didn't find you. Now, it's not that we're giving them something that doesn't exist out there. There's hundreds of companies out there, hundreds of consultants and strategists doing better jobs than what we are doing, right? But I think the trick there is, for us at least, is to say, just call me and because I have the experience, we have the experience, and we train ourselves in verticals. We have like one of the guys right now, he's training himself in the insurance vertical because we landed a big, they call it a broker charter. So it's a charter. They have many brokers underneath them. These guys have, I think, 200 or 220 brokers. And we are talking about maybe branding them all, which is a lucrative project, right? That'll keep us going in 2021 in a big way. So I don't mind spending any amount of time on the phone on anything. If they have a pug, I have a pug, right? And my pug has been on 100% raw diet since he was born. And touch wood, this pug doesn't have the problems that other pugs have, right? Now, I'm proud of that. And I don't mind if a client calls me, they have a pug, I will spend an hour telling them how to take care of their pug.
I was wondering where you're going with this.
Pug problems.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mash, it's this customer lifetime value is something that I look back on earlier in my career that it was a huge mistake, not spending enough time with clients in the beginning and not valuing them after the fact, like just finishing the project and that's them. You have to spend more time getting new clients versus just like
new clients,
nurturing them and, having that trust, as you said, is so key. And like I don't even think about how much lost clients over the years I've had because of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
People buy people at the end of the day. And so, if you can add value to them, even what I find, like, seriously, I've had people say to me, Matt, we're hiring you for your energy. I'm like, what? They just like some people do. Jacob clearly doesn't, right? But like other people, right? They hire me because I can come in and add some energy and some passion and get their team fired up, get everybody on the same page. And you think, now, did they go looking for somebody who was like that? No. What they went looking for was something else. But when they came across me and they worked with me and they experienced the beard, and the Matt Davies stupidity, then then for them that means a lot, and that's where they see value. And obviously you've got to add. Sorry, I don't want listeners to think I just wander around. Just like, here's my beard. Obviously, there's obviously depth to that, and you have to have the.
And it's your striking eyes in your black and white videos, man.
Oh,
that's so striking in your black and white videos with a beard. You got this regal kind of this Viking look to you. You got that.
I mean, it's all part of my personal brand. But what I'm trying to say is back up what you're saying, which is, if we can add value as we go, we'll be perceived as being more valuable to clients, and they won't go anywhere else. If they're talking to you and you've helped them solve a problem, then they'll come to you again and again and again, and they trust you, and that's the key. So I 100% love the journey that you're on, I think it's been really inspiring to hear you talk through it. What do you think, Jacob?
I wanted to go back to, we kind of skipped over a section, like how you get these clients. Because before you had such a huge focus on SEO, and now I know you have a lot of like retargeting, a lot of smarts going on behind the scenes. We've had a previous conversation on, so I'd love you to share like how you're actually getting all these calls and all this business in all your verticals, and perhaps even talk about the LinkedIn strategy as well.
Sure. Okay, so a few years back, the first thing that really got us going was funnels. Now, funnels have a bad taste now because they've been used and abused, and a lot of it is just trash and taking advantage of people. But back in the day, when funnels were really relatively new, and even when ClickFunnels was relatively new, before they became a $100 million company and all that, funnels was really what got us going. So build this initial first funnel and use that funnel. Luckily we had built an email list over the years, right? We didn't build it for marketing, but we built it because we were expected to build it. And everyone says you need to have an email list, and it's so true. I mean, I think that is one of the marketing principles that has stood the test of time. The rest is all going out the window, right? Because everything's changing. If you look at 10 years ago, things that were supposed to be marketing strategies, they don't work. they're worth jack now because, people are moving on. Millennials are completely different. But anyway, so that email list, I think we had about 4,000 or 5,000 people on it. Small list, but really I worked with that list and sent out we built this funnel, not with ClickFunnels. We just built it using MailChimp at that time. And at the end of it was a couple of things. One was a private webinar that I was doing where Q&A. So every Friday I was doing Q&A. And this is just after the crash, right? So after I came back, it was myself now, no team, nothing. So deliverables of the funnel, one of the deliverables was this Q&A. And people could get in, and I capped it at 30 people per webinar, and they can ask any question about their business, and I will give them a valuable answer. That was my promise. I said, I will, no trade secrets, nothing. You don't have to buy from me. I'll just give you the answers. And so that funnel really lifted things. The first month, the first 4 Fridays, I spent like 3 hours on these calls and nothing to show for it. And I was almost like, okay, is this a bad idea? I've already advised 200 people, detailed advice, step by steps, and maybe I'm doing wrong. But then out of this came this one email from it's a county school, right? Florida. And they wanted some help. They wanted actually advice on rebranding their schools. And that was the first spark. And so the funnel, initial email list, then later we used, of course, advertising, Facebook advertising, Facebook, whatever you say, or maybe you would agree, maybe not, but my experience with Facebook has been fantastic. And we put in $1, and there was a time when we were taking out $100. 1:100. It began with 1:2, 1:1. Initially, when we were figuring things out, we didn't know. We were just putting money in, stupid ads. We were targeting the wrong emotions. And then initially not much traction. 6 months, 8 months down the line, I figured out, okay, what are the emotions that were not about manipulation, real emotions, right? What do I want to work with? Who is this person that this ad is looking at? Because most people, when they put up Facebook ads, they're thinking, it's almost like any sales channel. They think there are 1,000 people out there, they're standing in front of the house, and your ad is standing on the roof of the house with a megaphone, and that's how sales works. No, right? You and I know that. It's 1-to-1. There's only one person, maybe two at the most, with wife and husband or whatever, sitting in front of the computer looking at the same page. So I had to unlearn that mass mentality that marketing is for people. It was one person. I only want to look at one person. I only want to talk to one person. I don't want to think about my audience. I hate that word, but we have to use it because it is what it is. It's in the English language, and we don't have a better word. We use it for our clients. We use it in our marketing. We use it, but I hate that word because there is no audience. There's only one person. Anyway, so Facebook ads, they work tremendously. All they were supposed to do was come to our landing page. And for the landing page, we had many different landing pages, each one for each vertical. And sometimes we had landing pages just for an emotion. We wanted to target anger, for example. And for that, we had specific landing page. Sounds very complex, but it was very simple. In fact, I put it together initially. Later, of course, we had teams, and then we went on to ClickFunnels. We used that.
Can you give us an example, Mash? So, let's say, what's the ad look like when you're targeting anger? What's the image, and what kind of copy you're using, and what would actually be on the landing page, just to show a little bit more?
Right. Okay. So, for example, anger. What we're looking for is anger from a business owner in terms of why their business is not going to the next level. Right now, everyone has that. We have it, right? We may not identify it as anger. Sometimes it might wear the guise of disappointment or frustration or something like that. But it is pure anger. We're angry that we're good at what we do, but yet our business is not taking off. Or we're the best in the world, our product is the best, but we're not taking off. So I wanted to target that emotion. And first of all, communicate that what you think you're best at, what you think your product is best at, is not the truth. So that ad simply said that. It said, do you think you have the best, I'm paraphrasing here, but something to the lines of, you believe your product is the best and yet your business is not taking off? I think you're wrong. It was brutal. It was kind of direct. And yes, a lot of people won't like it, but I don't care. I'm not trying to, that ad was not for everyone. Like I said, I'm not talking to an audience. I don't care about the audience. This is not, a train station. This was me and my business. I want $1 from you and I'll give you my time, my expertise, my value, my skill, right? So that was my only intention. And when they came to the landing page, the copy was about, if you think your product is the best or your service is the best, I would say confidently that 98% of the time you're wrong. If you want to call me up on that, here is my number. So I used to include a number there just so that if someone says, what the hell are you talking about? If they pick up the phone, right? If they have enough anger to pick up the phone, I want to talk to them. Anyway, that page was not about selling our service, but saying, find out what it is that you need to be successful, and stop thinking that you have the best product or best service and yet you're not able to. And then talked about blame mentality and things like that. Again, might sound hocus pocus, right? Might sound like, oh man, would that work? What the hell is this? Guys, I believe in being transparent, right? I don't hide anything. I talk about whatever. You ask me right now, you want to ask me about love life? I will tell you. Okay. I know you won't. I'm just saying. Yeah.
I know what you mean. You sharing. Sharing is caring. That's what.
So I'm not joking around with this, man, because I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful, and I want people to take such radical kind of outlook. Now, it's just like trading again. I know I keep going back to trading because it's very easy to give examples. Someone sends on Twitter a stock alert. But you follow this guy, right? So he has 10,000, 100,000 followers. He tweets out, buy NIO. It's going to go up today. And then I bought it. He says, I bought it. I bought 100 shares. This is it. It's called an alert. Maybe 40% of that audience jumps in and they buy it. And then the guy silently sells off his shares. Later on in the evening, he says, sold. And then these guys panic and then they sell. What's happening? It's called pump and dump, right? You don't, look, even these principles we talk about, and even strategy to a certain extent. And that's why I find strategy is very valuable, because frameworks, yes, we have frameworks. We have the blue ocean frameworks. We have this and that and level C. And these frameworks are really good. But when you're in front of this strategic problem you need to solve and you need to position it, it's like standing in front of a samurai, isn't it? It is because, and these are the principles. So I'm able to share it because I know that these are not trade secret. And you can't just blindly follow them. You can't now just say, okay, I will target anger. And you have to, the reason I share this is to say, look at it from that radical perspective. Okay, I'm a designer, or I have a design firm, or I'm a freelance designer, right? Okay, I'm making 20,000, which is decent enough, or 10,000 a month. Want to take it to the next level. What do I do? First thing is push your design to the side. In fact, turn away from it. Turn away from design. And that's where you start thinking that if you're forced to look away from the crutches, you know what they say in that movie I was watching yesterday? The guy says, that man is a small man. He's not, without his gun, he's nothing. Okay. This is House of Sand and Fog, beautiful film. So it's about this police guy. He's very aggressive and he's like, but that's because he has the gun, right? So just like that, our crutch and our weakness is our skill. If we're a strategist, in fact, right now, some of the projects I want, some of these, I'm targeting verticals, these huge accounts that I want. I turn away from strategy when thinking, when I'm strategizing, okay, first of all, getting to this client, okay, what do we pitch them, right? So when you're strategizing pitch, of course, my crutch will be my strategy. Let's start talking about strategy. Let's start mentioning strategy. But would that work, right? Usually it doesn't, because this client probably knows nothing about, blue ocean optimization, curve, sine, theta, blah, blah. So just like that, designers, I think, have to turn away from their design. And anyway, so going back to the funnel. So initial funnel, targeting that Facebook, I must say, within the year, I landed, I would say, 20, 30 good clients. 20, 30 good clients. So I probably put in about that first year, I would say close to $8,000 maybe. Doesn't sound much, but what I took out of it, it was tremendous. Now, Facebook, it has lost its impact now. It's not that. These days when we're running our metrics for even now our ads go online, but the metrics, it's probably because of pandemic, it's whatever, but Facebook, it's slowed down a little bit, but that is it. That is the first strategy we tried. A funnel with Facebook ads leading to a landing page, and that landing page, main intention was to get them either onto a webinar or to email me or to pick up the phone. And of course, we had obstacles because we can't just pick up the phone means, everybody might pick up the phone, right? I don't have the time for it. So I put in place, it was a system that I designed, and it worked quite well. In terms of LinkedIn, that was the next stage. So Facebook and the landing pages was the first, and it still is the bedrock, so to speak.
I think there's you mentioned earlier when we were chatting about like the retargeting, like they've got to your landing page and, they visit different pages of your site and you can retarget them. Like how does that work?
It's automated. Yeah. Retargeting is, that's really a good one if done well. Yeah. Not retargeting in terms of spamming them, but retargeting and using automation. So in terms of automation, on our website, we have code that sort of displays content based on the tokens. So we built up this credit system, right? So when someone comes to our website, we assigned, and this is probably not new. I mean, now everybody, but at that time it was pretty kind of new thinking. We assigned credits to the activities that they've done. A contact page gets you 50 points. They go to the about page, add another 20 points. And even on a particular page, there were certain areas purposefully put in there, certain images purposefully put in there to add value to those who clicked. And those who clicked that particular one were put in a separate list channel. And if they then gave their email address, they're treated completely different. So it's not about newsletters. It's not about following up with last minute deal, doors closing, none of that, but really treating them like these are our clients because they did these activities.
Yeah, you're tracking them on the site to see how valuable they are, how invested they are in terms of like reading. And you mentioned before, like if they clicked on logo design versus strategy, it's less points. And like if they clicked on your brand strategy item in the menu, like it's just so clever, and how you use this point system. So I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Oh yeah, point system. And also it's also great for filtering out because one of the biggest things in our design business is the tire kickers, the people who probably have $100 in their pocket, but then they come to you and say, "I want a logo like Nike's or some, that, right?" So my intention was, I want to work with people who value what I have to give them, and the rest of the people, I don't need them. I don't want them. And it might sound rude, but it is the brutal truth. I don't want anything to do with them, So we put in place these disqualifiers. If someone went to the logo page, spent a lot of time in logo, and then they checked out strategies pages, and then they clicked on the schedule a call, we disqualify that. Now, you might say, that doesn't make sense, right? How could you know? Okay, so it's not as simple as I said. We have a certain path, and there are certain pages. Purposefully, we redirect sometimes to that page to see how long they would spend on that page. Because if they did spend time on that page and then came back and then trying to schedule a call, it's a time-wasting call. They're just calling to fish for information or God knows, right? I mean, the human mind, it can bend anyway. It's like a reed. It's like a willow in the wind. So so that we don't lose our sanity, we don't want to keep giving proposals and all that. That disqualification really saved us tons of time. And of course, as with anything, yeah, we might have lost a few promising ones, but the pain we avoided was worth losing a small percentage of genuine people who might have inadvertently gone through that channel. So at the back end, I wrote that code, and later, of course, we had developers develop it. It's slightly different now because of privacy laws, GDPR. Now we got to be careful in terms of how we track. We don't do that much tracking because anyway, our strategy has changed now. We have left that kind of marketing behind. We're now, since 2020, and now especially, we're going in a different path. I think this is the new stage for us, new phase of marketing for us. But that still works if you can do it properly and add those points up and then align them, put them up in a list, and then you reach out. And then we use LinkedIn to reach out, and you can embed LinkedIn code on your website. And if they're logged in to LinkedIn and they're on your website, then it makes a connection. Of course, it's anonymous. It just tells us that it doesn't share private data, right? You can't cross check. You can't just get their LinkedIn address, but it does tell you that, okay, this guy is on LinkedIn or this gal is on LinkedIn. Sometimes you even get metrics like how active they're on LinkedIn so this is publicly available data, and it's anonymized. And we use that to research, find the person on LinkedIn, and I would make a direct kind of introduction. Not your usual, hey, want to get on a call and share coffee, and not that, but it's more like, okay, you've been to our site, you've checked out this, and of course we preamble it with, this is the technology we use. So
how are you actually finding these people if you don't actually get that information? That's really interesting.
So we have hidden targets within the website of categories, right? So if you're in the auto business and if you spend reasonable amount of time on our website, my system will identify you that you are in that either automotive or similar. If you're an insurance broker, it will say financial consultant probably. And it so happens initially, these same people also search on LinkedIn for our company. If they came to our website, they would search and they want to find out, right? That cross-referencing was very easy. There are a few other things. There's a complex algorithm that works out. It is not easy. It is difficult, but we narrow it down and we try to cross-reference. I send out an email saying, were you on our website recently? That was the initial kind of path that we tried. And that worked sometimes. That did not work many times because people would just refuse to answer, right? They don't want to, who's this guy, right? Are you stalking me or something? But it is, you can find people on LinkedIn, and you can cross-reference based on the industry. And if they searched, so this PHP code would, it has access, it's API to LinkedIn, to my account, to our account. And if they searched either me or the business, and then either before they came, this again, retargeting, right? Before they came to our website or after they came to our website, it does ping you. And you can then reach out. And I don't know about now because we don't use that anymore. I'm talking about a few years back.
So how have you changed now? Like, what's your marketing strategy now?
Okay, now we're going after verticals. And when I say verticals, for example, insurance brokers, right? And for that, we don't go to the retail insurance broker. We're going for charters. So almost all verticals have these organizations, these middlemen who have these charters. All these guys are members of that. And those guys work out group insurance. They work out group rates. They do a lot of stuff. This works for insurance people, financial consultants. We go through brokerage, like Broker Check, for example, and a few other organizations. The medical field, hospices, schools, veterinarians, lots of businesses have these hubs. And it's like, let's say you have you're selling, I don't know, orange juice, and you want to get into a supermarket, right? You need to go through the buyer, right? There's someone called as a buyer who represents a few different supermarkets. That buyer then, if he approves you, he puts you in front of the particular supermarket buyer, right? And then you negotiate rates. Just like that, we right now, all our focus, and we find them through LinkedIn, and all of our focus is building relationship with them. We offer free consulting to start with, just to give them ideas on how they could brand all their members. And we get a lot of rebranding accounts where they have 20, 30, let's say, brokers under them. They already have some crappy logos or whatever they have. And sometimes they come for strategy, but it always starts with, like I said, helping, so offering help and saying, we can troubleshoot. If you're not able to position, or you're finding something difficult, or your brokers are not able to gain the traction, we can identify what it is and let you know. You don't need to take our service. It's something, as a gift we'll give you.
Crazy. You've really run the gamut. So just to recap where you've come from, like working on Google ads and then Facebook ads and then retargeting and now LinkedIn and having a little bit more of a personal approach. So it's really fascinating. Well, thank you for sharing, Matt. So did you have any other questions, Matt, based on that?
Well, no, I think basically, you've blown my mind a few times.
Yeah.
And I guess the kind of the crescendo question would be, well, where can people find you, Mash? Like, where are you online, and and can people connect with you?
Twitter, and my handle is @Bonigala.
All right,
nice.
And spellbrand.com, right?
Yes, spellbrand.com is our agency website, and Square Maze is my incubator /VC firm, and yeah.
It's so fascinating, Mash, because our listeners will realize there's so many different ways to talk about or sell design or strategy or to create clients, versus just, inbound marketing or whatever it is that people are doing. There's just so many different ways to do it. And like, if you have the business,
pricing.
If you have the business smarts and you use your whatever skills you have available, you came from a software background, you've adapted that you've used your experience in Google advertising, then you moved into Facebook. So you've just capitalized on the skills you have to really build your business up, and now it's thriving, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, 2020 was a bit of a downer for everybody, I guess. But we're still, design forms about 30% of our projects. Strategy forms about, I would say, 60%, 50, and the rest is consulting. And in fact, I'm thinking that going 2021, we might actually do more consulting and reduce the strategy, because strategy projects are losing that magic. It's because brand strategy as a concept, as a service, is diluting. It's muddying the waters, so to speak. And we've started realizing this in about 6 months back. And so because of my initial crash and burn, ever since I've been highly, highly alert to shifts, to changes, because I was not aware, I almost, died, right? So from then on, my priority on every single day is to look at it and say, is it shifting? If it is, I want to get out. We have to be the first one to get out, is my motto. And strategy for me now, I'm not saying we're moving away from strategy. It will still be strategy, but we're trying to frame it differently, because strategy is again becoming like a commodity. And clients who are unsophisticated, even unsophisticated clients, when they're coming on a call, they're talking about strategy. They're like, that's this strategy, we did that strategy. When I hear that, I'm thinking, okay, so they know the buzzword strategy. They've been seeing it everywhere. They've been reading it about it everywhere. They're watching it on YouTube. They're reading it on Medium. So they think they know what strategy is. When the clients think they know what it is, then we become the commodity, right? We become the order takers. We become the Photoshop puppets, right? And we become the strategy puppets now, because they think they're coming to us and engaging us for a strategy project. But in a sense, what they want to do is help you solve a problem based on their recommendations. When that happens, you're not a strategist anymore, right? And I cannot. I've had many situations where I go head to head with my clients when they do not accept my strategy. And I'm not saying that we're a dictator and you should accept. Not that. What I'm trying to say is that, and I'm sure you guys have experienced it. You guys are strategists. When you place yourself in that company and you create a strategy that is meant for the audience, the end result, and then the stakeholder says, I don't like it, and not quantifying it, not qualifying it. Just personally, I don't like it because, when we were it doesn't matter where you were. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. Is it effective? Does it speak to your audience? Yes, it does. Then that's the end of the matter. But that's where it's happening now, is where when the client thinks that they know more than you do, it's time to start off either, because strategy is basic, right? I mean, kids, my pug has strategies every day, right? To get that extra treat, to get that extra hug, to get that belly rub. He has strategies. So strategy it's not going, but we are reframing it.
Sound a bit like Jacob there. Jacob has similar strategies to Jacob.
Yeah. And pricing, Jacob, don't forget the pricing thing, right? I know it's cliched. I know it's been beaten to death, but people are still making that mistake. Why? Why do we offer these cheap rates? Why?
Commoditized mash, isn't it? Desperation, I think, maybe.
It is.
Yeah. So let's get brave, guys. Let's move things forward. Let's be inspired by Mash and what he said to us today. Mash, I want to thank you so much for coming in. It's been inspirational. Jacob, any final thoughts?
That's it. I'm glad we had that little crescendo at the end, as you said.
It was awesome.
Thank you guys for having me on this show, and I apologize if I was just rambling on about a few things.
Loved it.
Thank you.
As I said, there's so many things that we could talk about, but these are the things that I felt that I'm thinking about the young designer, or the up and coming, or even the medium designer who is struggling to get to the next level. I think rather than what not to do, I think it's more important to get them to the next level. So that's all I have for sharing.
Thank you so much, Mash.
All right, guys. Have a great day, and speak to you soon.